Good Thursday afternoon to you. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Browns getting ready for a Saturday afternoon game against the Las Vegas Raiders. A little later in the show, Ashley Bastock, Browns beat reporter from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, will join us. We begin by talking Browns as well. Some good news. David Njoku activated off the COVID-19 reserve list and actually back on the practice field as well. Browns out in Berea going through a full workout for the first time today. And there is David Njoku getting passes from Case Keenum, who will get the start at quarterback for Baker Mayfield on Saturday. Good to have Njoku back in. Definitely a boost with all the offensive pieces missing. Harrison Bryant also out there working out a possibility that he may be available against the Las Vegas Raiders as well. And again, Keenum will be a quarterback working with Donovan Peoples-Jones. So the Browns going through a full workout for the first time all week, just walkthroughs previous to this. They also made some roster moves. Lawrence Cager activated to the active roster from the practice squad, wide receiver. They have also brought up Nick Mullins from the practice squad as a COVID replacement. He will be the backup quarterback to Case Keenum for the game on Saturday. Does have experience, has started a number of games for the San Francisco 49ers. Greg Newsome, Kareem Hunt, Anthony Schwartz all out for the game. Harrison Bryant, Malik Jackson listed as questionable, and Ronnie Harrison tested positive for COVID, so he is on the COVID-19 restricted list. Also, some late word from around the league that the Browns will, the NFL will in fact alter their COVID protocols next week. So not this week. Starting next week, you only need to return one negative test if you are vaccinated, as opposed to the two 24 hours apart. Let's welcome in Doug Lesmerises, columnist for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. So Doug, next week, just need to return one negative test, not this week, for the COVID protocol for the NFL.
So people don't like talking about medicine stuff on a sports show, right? So it's not that fun to talk about medicine stuff. But the league, listen, the virus changes, and so your reaction to the virus has to change, right? And we're obviously in a different place with our science and vaccines and other things than we were a year ago. And it just felt like the league was behind. The league was behind with its rules and protocols compared to the realities of the virus today, which feels like if you've got your third shot and with where the virus is right now, that you might get it, but it's not really that much of a risk. It's too much medicine stuff. This screws the Browns. Like competitive balance matters. It's a multi-gazillion-dollar business. Our society has chosen to put too much emphasis on sports, but we play sports through everything, right? I mean, nothing stops sports. So that the idea that it was sort of like, well, this is the policy we had when we thought this is how you dealt with the virus. Oh, you're missing half your starters. Sorry. Just like doesn't seem right. And so I guess this is a good move to change the protocols, but it's not going to help Baker Mayfield and John Johnson III and everybody else who's not going to play on Saturday.
Fair enough. Kevin Stefanski talked about the preparation for the Raiders with all the changing circumstances. Kevin Stefanski still virtually in charge of it as he's tested positive for COVID-19 as well. Here's Kevin Stefanski earlier today.
You know, I got to hand it to the players, and the coaches did a great job with this week. It's been, you know, all about adapting and being flexible and, you know, adjusting by the minute, by the hour. And they were able to get a good practice in there today. I was able to watch on Zoom. You know, going into this game, we understand what's at stake. We understand AFC opponent. And I think the guys are excited for the challenge.
And Doug, I guess the silver lining is they went through this in a playoff game and found a way to win with Kevin Stefanski away from the team. So they have that system in place, which is always better than not having a system in place.
Oh, no, like no offense to Kevin Stefanski, but like that's the least of anybody's worries, I think, right? I mean, I'm a guy who's been calling for Alex Van Pelt to get a chance to call plays again. So from that aspect of it, I'm almost looking forward to this. I don't wish that Kevin Stefanski tested positive for COVID, but play calling on offense, I think they'll be fine. And it may be even a little different. Yes, the game plan's the same, as Dan Lobby keeps saying, or Scott Pasco keeps saying on on our Browns podcast, the playbook's the same. They're not going to come up with new plays. You don't get to call stuff, draw stuff in the dirt, Alex Van Pelt. But play calling is both a science and an art, so the science doesn't change, but you got a different artist with the brush in his hand, and that means the painting is going to at least be a little bit different, and kind of this offense needs the painting to be different. So I think that's good. And then, the head coach kind of stuff, Mike Prefer will do it. Like, honestly, I almost, no offense to Kevin Stefanski again, I mean, he sets a culture, he sets a style of offense, he's the leader of the team. But every single player who is out is more important to what's going to happen against the Raiders, I think, than Kevin Stefanski, because it does seem like they have a good plan in place with Mike Prefer running the show and Alex Van Pelt calling the plays.
Yeah, I would agree. So one thing that comes in the Browns' favor, David Njoku back and by all estimations healthy. He talked about his confidence in this offense with Case Keenum leading it.
All the trust and confidence I have in both quarterbacks, Baker and Case. You know what I'm saying? Like the way they work mentally and physically, day in and day out, week in and week out. It's no, like we're not slowing down. You know what I'm saying? It's foot on the gas. We're firing the same way as if Baker was here, as if Case was there. They're both great quarterbacks, and I'm very excited to finally play again.
And the offense can certainly use David Njoku. Again, it's going to be a challenge to put points on the board with what they will have offensively.
And the biggest issue is the offensive line, right? That Jedrick Wills and Wyatt Teller are two of the COVID guys, while Jack Conklin's out for the year, and already Chris Hubbard's out for the year. And so that's four. So you're down to like your 7th, 8th, and 9th offensive linemen are all going to start this week. They did everything they could to not have to start Blake Hance last week, and now Blake Hance is going to have to start again. So that's the reality. And it's like, I know, okay, well, they have Nick Chubb. Well, they don't have 3 of the 5 guys that you ideally would want blocking for Nick Chubb. And you don't have Austin Hooper, and you don't have Jarvis Landry because they're on the COVID list. So like it's going to be a slog. And again, it's not a magic paintbrush for Alex Van Pelt. But I just think that's the real issue to me, is what are they going to be able to get going in the run game with this offensive line so that the Raiders don't just tee off on Case Keenum.
Fair enough. The other thing is, let's hope it's a paintbrush, not paint by numbers or finger painting as well. That would be bad.
Yeah, no, it's and listen, man, you don't need to make a Picasso. We're not trying to get in the Louvre here. You're just trying to sell this thing for $25 at the Christmas bazaar.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's all you need. Case Keenum talked about why he specifically is built for this exact kind of circumstance.
I think a lot of things. I think my skill set, the history of my football game and where I've been taught in my training with different coaches I've been in, the situations I've been in. I truly, like I said earlier, I think experience is priceless, and I've had a lot of experience in a lot of different situations, and I've looked back at each of those, some good, some bad, did some things right, did a lot of things that I would do differently, and you learn and grow from it. So that's what experience does. That's what you use from it. And I've taken all those things and I wrap them up and I put them in my tool belt, and it makes me who I am. And I go out each day with the confidence, knowing all those things that I've done in the past and all the work that I put in each and every day, this year, last year, my whole career. I get to go put it on the line and enjoy doing what I love to do, and that's play football. So it's all those things combined with confidence in my teammates.
And Doug, the one thing he showed was he was a little bit more athletic than we thought in that Denver game, and he may need that with what's going to be going on with the line.
Yeah, I feel like Cleveland is sort of embracing a Case Keenum superhero theme this week that I don't really buy. That it's like whatever whoever was saying, like, thank God for Case Keenum, and it was like, well, yeah, I mean, that's true, I guess. but he's not the best backup quarterback in the league. You know, he's 4 years removed from his good year as a starter, which he had in his year 29 season. Now he's 33. You know, like, I guess he's fine. He knows the system. He kind of plays like Baker Mayfield. I get it, but it was like, I don't know. It's like kind of take Tyler Huntley, you know? Like, I mean, I think I'd take Andy Dalton. You know, I mean, like, I'm not going to pretend that Case Keenum is like one of the 5 best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. So does he have a baseline level of competence that means the offense won't look like a circus? Yes. And no one should take that for granted. But, you know, the defense probably has to win the game. And I think Case Keenum will be capable of, like, not screwing it up if Myles Garrett, JOK, and Denzel Ward go out and try and win this thing.
Yeah, and it's going to have to be a low-scoring game. I agree. You mentioned Myles Garrett. So Myles Garrett, are you ready for this, Doug? The first Cleveland Brown ever to get a 99 rating, highest rating on Madden, and they honored him yesterday because he was elevated to that 99 status.
I wanted to tell you that I love the way you've been playing this season. Watch you every single snap you're out there. You're absolutely dominating. And it's so much fun for me seeing you grow from a dominant rookie to one of the best players in the NFL. And there's a few people that are downstairs that may want to tell you something. So you may want to go downstairs and check it out.
Second, I thought I almost didn't make it. It's got to be Jade Onyx marble. This thing's heavy as hell. I can't wear this.
Hey.
It's worth more than me.
Are you gonna play as yourself in Madden?
I got to at least once. Now that's the dream. The dream started with being a 99 in college football. Now it's kind of changed to pros. Now I got to do it and see if I can be the first 100. Now that's a goal.
So there you go, the first 99. I highly doubt that is worth more than him. Let's just be honest about that. But you know what? It's nice. He's been playing really well.
I'm not the guy to ask about this. I like video games. If it means something to Myles Garrett, fantastic. And it clearly does. He's excited. He deserves that. But the whole rating system of a video game being an honor in and of itself, it's like, well, the rating is just based on what you actually do. And like, we're in a world where people still make fun of analytics, but it's like, oh, a video game rating. Well, that means you're legit. It's like that. Like, people who analyze the game with math to look for advantages are nerds, but someone who gives you your digital guy on a PlayStation was 1 pixel faster this year. Like, that's a thing. Like, he's a 99 in real life, right? Isn't that what we're all trying to be, Dave? 99s in real life? So whether he's a 99 in the video game, and again, who am I to say? It means something to him. That is great. But
I agree wholeheartedly.
I think it's weird that people get excited about it.
The players really get excited about it. So you know what? Let him go. He's having a good time.
No, that's great. That's great. That's great.
Doug Lesmerises and I going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We will also hear from Raiders defensive coordinator Gus Bradley, former Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. He'll talk about the Browns and what he sees on that Browns offense. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
7-6 Browns getting ready for nearly a must-win game if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive against the Raiders. 4:30 over at First Energy Stadium. Time to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason with a question about the Browns' game plan against the Raiders.
Yes, hi. I'm wondering if you think that the Browns, assuming the current players out are the only ones out, God willing, can put together a conventional game plan to beat the Raiders, or will they have to get outrageous? I remember that Thursday night game years ago against the Steelers and the wind and the freezing cold when their offense was basically direct snaps to Josh Cribbs, and they found a way to win. I wonder if they're going to have to do something like that to get past Oakland, given all of the people they're missing.
Doug Lesmerises, I think it will be very conventional. I think they're probably going to run the ball a lot, and I think the defense is likely going to have to win this game. They're going to have to keep the Raiders 17, something like that, 10, 17, 16.
Yeah, I think you start out conventional. Don't make mistakes. Don't turn it over. Don't give them short fields, and assume that a decent chunk of the defense, your best defensive guys, should be out there. You're certainly missing key guys. Ronnie Harrison added to the COVID list today. Greg Newsome not in. John Johnson III not in. Other guys not in. But lean on the defense, but I think you do have to have some unconventional stuff in reserve. It's like what you got a Demetric Felton wrinkle that you might have to pull out this week. Do you have something special designed for Njoku that maybe you haven't used a ton, that if you have to put points on the board because you're down, again, I'm just apprehensive about how well they'll be able to run the ball with the patchwork offensive line and Chubb having to carry the load because Kareem Hunt's not there. So defense first, extra special secret offensive plans in Alex Van Pelt's back pocket in case they get down 10 points in the middle of the third quarter.
Yeah, that would be under glass break only in cases of extreme emergency, I would assume. So the Raiders have a new defensive coordinator, newer. Gus Bradley was the head coach over at Jacksonville before. He talked about the Browns game against the Broncos, and if that is what he's kind of using to think what this offense might look like under Case Keenum. Here's Gus Bradley.
I think it was important. I know we looked at it just because I think they're pretty defined who they want to be and what they are. And an extremely good running team. They have the play action passes off of it that create challenges. And so it's a good game to say, you know what, regardless, they've got a talented roster and they're very well coached. And the next man up is definitely their mentality, and we saw that in the Denver game. Well, I think they're always a team they're going to pride themselves on running the ball over 30 times a game. That's just who they are. And, I think that's for us, that mentality that we know they're real good. They're real good up front. And they're a committed run team. They've had multiple games of over 200 yards. I think they had 240 against the Chargers. And, and that's the way they like it, where they can really control the line of scrimmage and dominate in the run game, and then, the passing game off of it to keep you honest. And that's where they search for their big plays. What I saw is I think they've got almost 50 explosive runs. And most teams we're playing, you see 18, 20. They've got 50 or 49 or something like that. Over 100 explosive plays in the year. They're averaging 8.5 a game. So, when that number in the run game shows, that really catches your attention.
And again, Doug, we've talked about the offensive line being beat up. David Njoku coming back helps because he has been a really good blocking tight end. That's one of the strengths that he's kind of developed in his game.
No, that's real. It's funny to think the evolution of David Njoku's career and how much he does matter as a blocking tight end for them. So that is real. Again, that's sort of Gus Bradley is at this point, you're citing the numbers of the, people in this uniform put up these numbers this year, not the guys who are going to be playing on Saturday because they're missing so many guys. I do think I've been skeptical of D'Ernest Johnson this year, just like I'm skeptical of Case Keenum because, and he had the huge game against Denver when they needed it. But, he's not a number one back in the league to do that every week. But I do think he will be important in this game because you can't lean on Chubb too much. And there are times I think D'Ernest Johnson is at his best when he's fresh and the other guys are tired, and you give him a series when a defensive line is wearing down and all of a sudden he's breaking tackles and doing his thing. I do think as important as he was and as big of a story he was after that Denver game when he had to do it by himself, to do it with an offensive line that is missing guys in a world where Chubb is going to be absorbing a not a beating, but he's going to take a lot of hits on Saturday. I think Dearness Johnson's energy is really going to be important here in spurts. You can't lean on Johnson too much either, but in spurts, he might almost be like that shot in the arm that you could use for this offense when things get rough in the second half.
Well, the other thing, so Alex Van Pelt will be calling plays, assuming Kevin Stefanski does not get cleared from the COVID protocol. So he was asked about the game plan and game planning with who's available, especially on that offensive line.
The two guys that'll be plugged into those spots, they played playoff football for us and started in games that we've won in the playoffs. So I'm confident in their ability. Very smart guys, tough guys. Coach Callahan will have those guys ready. I'm not concerned about them.
So he's talking about Blake Hance as well as Michael Dunn. You have another additional piece of that is you're missing a third one. But that's a point that I forgot. That's one of the reasons I threw that in there. They did play in that Pittsburgh game when the Browns beat the Steelers.
Yeah, and last week the Browns did everything they possibly could to make sure they didn't have to start Blake Hance. Yeah. So,
fair point. Fair
coaches
point.
can say coach stuff, but we're out here outside the team bubble, so we can say the other stuff.
I can't argue with that. All right, take a look at this one. This one is specifically for you, Doug. We got this. We dug this up specifically for you. Browns lead the way in the salary cap dollars, sitting on the reserve COVID list, and it is $44 million, almost $44.3 million on the COVID cap. You see the Rams, half of that, the Vikings, and then the Bears at $11 million. But think about that. Let that sink in. $44 million of their salary cap is on the COVID reserve list.
So Scott Pasco and I were theorizing about this the other day. Like, how would you set a threshold of what is too much? Like, we're not going to make a team play at a certain level, because it's not just number of players, it's who the players are. It's are they starters or not? And so when you're talking about a world where they're missing half their starters, we're trying to say, what if they came up with a thing before the season where you designated 5 tier 1 guys and 8 tier 2 guys and 10 tier 3 guys, everybody else is tier 4. And if you had some combination of, like, you get to choose, these are our most important players. And if you get some, if you have a 40-point total of your different tier guys, that's too much. That's good. That Jason at Over the Cap, that's good. If you have more than $30 million of your salary cap on the COVID list, you don't have to play. Like, that is a reasonable thing, because again, it's like some people say, well, if they all sprain their ankles, it's like, well, we're not in a sprained ankle pandemic right now. And the point isn't even that they sprained their ankles. It's that they might have sprained their ankles, right? That they're not. Right. David Njoku just came back. He said he wasn't sick the whole time. So this is where the NFL adjusting it is good. But like I said, this is my theory. Dave, you want a theory of life? There are lines to everything, right? When it's raining, there's 6 inches over here where it's not raining, and then 6 inches over here, it is raining. There are lines to everything. People say, well, I don't know. There's always a line. So, okay, what if they had 53 guys on the COVID list? Would they play? Oh, they wouldn't? Okay, how about 47? All right, 41. Where's the line? There is a line to say that, oh, well, of course there is. They're not going to make you play, Dave. They're not going to make me play. So there is a line, and I'm just saying, man, half your starters, to me, is approaching that kind of line where the rain is. Because, man, that is just competitive balance-wise, man, that's a lot to ask.
Yeah, and there's no way, there are no indications they're going to do anything other than play this game Saturday at 4:30 at First Energy Stadium. Doug Lesmerises and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We will hear from Myles Garrett what he expects from his teammates coming up. We'll also see how Baker Mayfield is feeling. He tested positive for COVID. It's asymptomatic. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Raiders 4:30 on Saturday afternoon here in Cleveland. Myles Garrett was asked earlier today if he and the other guys that are healthy need to step up against the Raiders.
We will, 100%. The guys who are starters, who are big-time playmakers for this team, we're going to have to show it. We're going to have to lead, and we're going to have to lead by example, not just lead with our voices. Right now, we're short-staffed, and there's a lot of guys who are out, but nobody's going to make excuses for us, and nobody's going to feel sorry for us. We got to do what we say we wanted to do all year, and that means we have to go through the Raiders to do it. One day at a time. Can't worry about the past. You don't know about the future, so just stay in the present and control what we can control. And who's up? You got to be ready. Can't be anticipating that you'll be, the guy coming off the bench this week. Right now, someone who's Thursday might be up right now, and they have to make a play that they've only seen and haven't done themselves. Just got to be able to rise to the occasion.
And Doug Lesmerises, that's a guy that could very well take over the football game, and the Browns probably need that defense, especially that defensive line, to kind of dictate things.
Yeah, Dave, reports also coming out right now that there's more positive tests for the Browns about to be released. So, they do have a couple guys who can change games, right? Again, if Clowney can play, the idea that if you start with Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and Denzel Ward, pretty good start to a defense right now. It's just like that next level of guys are getting wiped out, it seems, every day. But you need, I still remember what the Hugh Jackson year, right? Myles Garrett, that game, that opener against the Steelers, he sort of single-handedly turned a loss into a tie in that game. I mean, that was, to me, one of the best examples I've ever seen of like one guy on his own by himself changing the outcome of a game. And Myles Garrett has that capability. It's not a 17-game plan to hope for one guy to change the outcome of every game. But in a moment like this, he's absolutely a guy that can do it. And they're really getting to the point where that may be their only chance to win, is for a couple of these individual defensive standouts to almost win the game on their own. Yeah, and again, you got to get through this week. That's right now. You're not looking at anything other than how do you figure out a way to get a win against the Las Vegas Raiders on Saturday. So Emily Mayfield, Mrs. Baker Mayfield, took to Instagram, tweeted this out, saying he's A-OK, and so Baker Mayfield asymptomatic. You can tell he lost the game. She said, I definitely won the game. You can tell Baker lost the card game there. So you can tell he doesn't take losing kindly. But again, Doug, in all seriousness, if in fact all the reports are Baker's asymptomatic, that's great. Means he likely only misses one game and is back at it. Just got to find a way to win the Raiders game and get to the next one. Yeah, we were having a discussion on our Orange and Brown Talk podcast that came out Thursday about the idea of a must-win and what does a must-win mean. And certainly you start to break down the rest of the season in the AFC North, and you can come to an idea that maybe 9-8 wins that division. And so the Browns are 7-6, and so it's going to depend who you beat. It might be make sure one of those wins for the Browns would be over the Bengals in the final week of the season. But it's not a must-win because they don't have to go 4-0. to make the playoffs, right? Nobody thinks that they have to get to 11-6. I've been operating under the assumption they have to be 10-7, and a lot of people have been operating under the assumption that at Green Bay on Christmas Day is going to be a tough slog. But I also watched the Packers in their first half against the Bears last week, and like they made some mistakes. They weren't perfect, and then Aaron Rodgers just started flipping touchdowns in the second half. But you know, every minute we talk, this game gets tougher and tougher on Saturday. The season's not over if they don't win. And the thing is, if they don't win, they're going to have every excuse in the world. I think the biggest problem would have been to lose this game normally. Like, hey, we're 7-6, we're back in it. Here we go. It's the Raiders at home. We should win this game. Oh, the Raiders beat us. Because then it's a loss and you're questioning yourself. Man, they're hanging on by their fingernails. So the loss will hurt, but then they can try to rally around it. We don't know what COVID's going to do to the rest of the league. Again, right now there are 3 teams with a number of players in the teens who are on the COVID list: Browns, Rams, and Washington football team. But if it's happening to them this week, you know, maybe it's going to happen to other teams in future weeks. You don't hope that it does, but maybe it will. So this might be a whole jacked up last month. So it just, as I think, again, every minute it gets harder to see how the Browns can win, but simultaneously you start to entertain things where, well, maybe a loss is more survivable than we would have thought a week ago, when it did kind of feel like, okay, well, they got to at least beat the Raiders.
Yeah, and you know, to your point, all teams in the AFC North have brutal final 4 games. You know, the Browns are all tough. All of the Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers games are equally as tough. You know, 2 of them are crossovers where they play each other. So to your point, there's a lot that can happen final 4 weeks. All right, we're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one's about the quarterback position.
In my opinion, this is what the Browns need to do. First of all, go and get Marcus Mariota from Oakland. And then when the draft comes, draft the biggest, strongest quarterback they can get, and 2 big, strong, fast receivers. That's going to fix most of what they need. And since the Browns are a run-first team, you're going to need those big receivers and that big quarterback who might have to take a few hits, but can. Thanks. Bye.
All right, we certainly appreciate the call. Doug, I'm pretty sure you probably are in agreement with this. I'm not really interested in Marcus Mariota and drafting a quarterback. It kind of resets the clock, and the clock is ticking just based on what you have in the offensive line, as well as the running back position and the defense.
Well, so you're in favor of like Baker in year 5 for sure?
I
Baker
just don't,
as the guy?
I don't see Marcus Mariota as being a significant upgrade over Baker Mayfield, and I don't want to go draft a quarterback again either.
Well, so do you have another hour? I mean, this is all we're going to be doing all off season. My shorthand answer is I don't think you can come back in year 5 with Baker Mayfield or bust. I think you can't come back with Baker Mayfield and just Case Keenum. We've seen other teams do this. You can go the route where you bring in a veteran like the Titans did with Ryan Tannehill behind Mariota, coincidentally, and then Tannehill took over the way the Bears did with Nick Foles behind Mitch Trubisky. You can draft a quarterback the way the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts behind Carson Wentz. I think they have to do something. So, and I also think my theory of quarterbacking is drafting a quarterback high forces an organization to get its stuff together. You want to build around that quarterback. You don't want to waste that quarterback. So you build the defense, you get a good head coach, you get skilled players, and then actually, if the quarterback doesn't work, your organization has been built to help a quarterback succeed. So if you just get that quarterback out and drop another quarterback in, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers built a team to win with Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston didn't win, and they signed Tom Brady, and they had a whole team ready to go around them. So all they have to do is get Tom Brady. Not exactly. But I mean, like, I don't think you reset the clock necessarily, right? That if it's a rookie, yes, but I there are options here. Generally, though, specifically to what the caller said, receiver in the first round, let's go. And if you want a big guy, Drake London from USC is your guy. You want a fast guy, Garrett Wilson from Ohio State's your guy. Receiver in the first round is something I am definitely all in on for the Browns.
Yeah, I agree. Mariota, I'm not interested in that. I want an upgrade. I want more of an upgrade if you're going to do that.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I mean, again, it's like, do you do the Rams thing where you trade the quarterback for the upgrade? But there are other options. Again, I don't know that Mariota's it, but Mariota is actually kind of a lot like Tannehill in that he was a first round pick who was given a shot and kind of didn't pan out. And then like in round 2, he found it. Tannehill's been a better quarterback in Tennessee than he was in Miami. So like Marcus Mariota specifically, I don't know Marcus Mariota type generally, actually maybe, because there's more upside there than there is with Case Keenum. Like, you know what Case Keenum is. He's 33. He's not going to get any better. Maybe you have a guy who you thought had a skill set who never popped, who still has a chance to pop. So I don't know, but yeah, they're trying to play a game in the midst of a COVID wave on Saturday. So there's probably off-season time for more quarterback talk.
Doug Lesmerises and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. So we will be right back on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
We continue talking Browns getting ready for the Raiders Saturday at 4:30. So Doug Lesmerises, here's the question I have for you. We've skirted around it. What's the roadmap? How do the Browns come away with a win against the Las Vegas Raiders Saturday afternoon?
Pin their ears back, get pressure on Derek Carr, hope that without a deep threat, they don't burn you too much. It seems like they're throwing a Hunter Renfrow 60 times a game right now with the Raiders. Slow them down, and then I do think you have to do a little bit in the pass game. I don't know that 28 times that Nick Chubb is going to get it done behind a makeshift offensive line. So find a way to get the ball to David Njoku and Donovan Peoples-Jones and Demetric Felton and Rashard Higgins down the field a little bit. Hope Chase McLaughlin's better and try to win, 17-13. Hope maybe, I think you got to force turnovers. Turnovers mostly are luck. But Myles Garrett strip sacks aren't luck. Sometimes Denzel Ward, with the way he reads balls, his picks aren't luck. So this really is, I think this is about Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and a all-pro level defensive effort by two guys who have played like all pros all year. And then like two good drives from the offense, and that might be enough.
Yep, make it ugly. The uglier, the better. All right, so last night, Urban Meyer fired by the Jacksonville Jaguars, didn't make it through an entire season, it became a real mess. Are you surprised it didn't work out in the NFL for Urban Meyer?
So I have a column about this up at cleveland.com that I posted at 3 a.m. after Urban got fired. Obviously covered Urban for 7 years. Not best friends with him, but know him pretty well. I am surprised it went this poorly. I thought it had a chance to work. Listen, I mean, the idea that this guy doesn't know what he's doing, he coached for 17 years in college football, never had a losing record. Everywhere he went, he flipped it immediately. Bowling Green was 2-9. He got hired. They went 8-3. He went to Utah. They had a losing record. He was 10-2 in year one. He was 9-3 in year one at Florida and won the national title in year two. Ohio State was 6-7. He got here. They went undefeated. So like, this guy knows how to coach. This guy knows how to build an organization. He knows how to motivate. And what I wrote and what I believe is I thought he would, like, you can't just be the same guy in the NFL you were in college. And I thought he would change, right? I thought he would adjust and tweak. And this is my leadership style. This is my organizational structure, but I'm going to take what I did with teenagers and I'm going to change it for millionaires. And I'm not there on the ground. I haven't talked to Urban, about Jacksonville since he got there. But all the reports feels like he kind of did the same thing. And what worked in college didn't work in the NFL, but he did the same thing. So you can't defend what happened in Jacksonville this year. And I was critical of him when he had the off-field incident when he was 0-4 after the Bengals game and he went to the bar in Ohio and embarrassed himself and embarrassed the Jaguars franchise. and I was critical of that. But a lot of this other stuff, some of the reports that have come out is like he's mean. He hurt people's feelings in a meeting. Man, he hurt people's feelings in meetings in college. It's just it was viewed as motivation because they were winning. And then when you hurt people's feelings and you're losing, then you're mean. So you can't defend what went down. It's one of the worst NFL tenures in the history of the NFL. It set a new standard for college coaches failing in the NFL. But I think if people start to try to go backwards and say, see, it's like it was always this. He was always this way. We should have known. He fooled people. It's like, listen, man, he has the third highest winning percentage in the history of college football for any coach who's coached for more than 10 years. Like, it worked. It worked for 17 years. Then he did the same thing, and it didn't work. So, like, that's kind of it. I thought he'd change at least some, and he didn't, and it didn't work anymore.
Yeah, and again, the way you coach a 19, 20-year-old kid is different than the way you're going to coach multi-millionaires in the NFL. And if you don't change, you become extinct. It's kind of like the dinosaurs all over again. Doug Lesmerises.
That's why I have stopped writing, and all I do is podcasts and this show, because I don't want to be a dinosaur.
Doug Lesmerises, as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Doug.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, Doug Lesmerises. Make sure you read them. Pages of the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will be joined by Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, Ashley Bastock. We will continue to talk Browns getting ready for the Las Vegas Raiders, 4:30 Saturday here at First Energy Stadium. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
Browns getting ready for the Raiders, 4:30 Saturday over at First Energy Stadium. So from the Bleacher Report, a big problem for NFL contenders that they need to fix before the postseason. For the Browns, their big problem, they say, is an offense that is too conservative. And you see the thing from Bleacher Report here, find a way to spark the offense, built up a big lead, 24-6 into halftime, 24-22 was the final. Let's welcome in Ashley Bastock, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. And Ashley, I kind of had the same feeling after watching that first half. I was like, man, this is what I expected. They're gonna do what they did to the Bengals. And then in the second half, with a backup quarterback, not so much.
that was kind of surprising. And then obviously we heard Baker Mayfield after the game saying that he thought things maybe felt a little bit more conservative than he would have liked. But, I think so much of this year, like we've talked so much about the lack of vertical plays downfield. I mean, I think a lot of that earlier in the season had to do with some of these injuries that Baker Mayfield was dealing with. And obviously we know that shoulder is his non-throwing shoulder, but given the mechanics of his throw, how much torque he has when he throws, it's understandable that would still impact him, I think, especially when he first injured that shoulder in week 2 of the season and those games immediately after that. But, I think more than anything, those comments, and we've talked about it, are just kind of maybe a little bit of a disconnect between what Baker Mayfield wants / thinks he can do versus what Kevin Stefanski thinks is best in that moment. And my colleague Scott Patsko wrote a great story about, even though on the surface level it might look that they were conservative, you're looking at some of the things they were doing late in that game against the Ravens. They were passing on 1st and 2nd down and things like that doesn't scream super conservative. So when you look past the surface level, it's like, okay, how conservative are they actually being? And what are the reasons for that? And I get there haven't been these big flashy plays that anyone, everyone is kind of hoping to see and hope there would be more of at this point in the season. But I definitely am going to keep an eye on that and see if it's just kind of like a disconnect or something going on right now.
Yeah, fair enough. It's interesting. You mentioned Scott Patsko wrote that. So Chris Sims from NBC Sports Unbuttoned talked about the Browns in the second half, said the exact same thing Scott Patsko did.
I don't really know how he can come away and say it's conservative, right? I mean, it's 17-0, I believe, right? And they come out throwing on 1st down. He throws an interception. Bad throw, too. Guy's open. Jarvis Landry's open. 15-yard out route, he's open. He throws it 3 or 4 yards behind the guy, Now, even at 17-3, they continued to throw the football and do some things. But now, 24-6, it's 2nd and 6. He pump fakes on a double move, holds the ball too long, almost fumbles. I mean, they called a double move. That's not being aggressive. That's
right.
not being conservative. And, from all accounts, after you've thrown an interception up 17-0, Kevin Stefanski had all the rights in the world to go, I'm going to be conservative here. He did not do that.
And Ashley, the other thing is that interception, I'm not sure. There looked like there was some miscommunication. I don't know if that was a bad throw necessarily or misreading, the option of that route.
Yeah, because I remember watching that in real time, and it just was not even close to the receiver at all. It just looked like he threw it right to the Ravens. So, I'd be curious to know more about the mechanics of that and how that happened. But, I think that we've heard that over and over again this year, that maybe Kevin Stefanski wants to tighten the leash a little bit when Baker Mayfield makes a mistake. And I think you look at the last 2 years, and this team has, I think in a lot of good ways, taken that sort of gunslinger mentality that Baker Mayfield has and altered it a little bit to kind of prevent him from throwing as many interceptions that he was prone to, for example, when Freddie Kitchens was the head coach and running that style of offense. So I think when you're talking about things in that way, it's maybe slightly more conservative in that sense. But overall, when you look at the last 2 years, I think that's been beneficial in the big picture to Baker Mayfield, the style of play.
Yeah, he has not made the critical turnovers that had plagued them earlier. All right, so we know the Browns are beat up. 11 starters likely out. More names have tested positive, haven't been released yet. If you're looking for a silver lining, Pro Football Focus offensive line listing for Week 15, and this is with all of the substitutions, and they still rank the Browns' offensive line as the 5th best in the NFL. Cowboys 1, Buccaneers 2, 49ers 3, Chiefs 4, Browns 5. And again, that's with Blake Hance listed as your starter and Michael Dunn starting as well. That's how good Joel Bitonio, J.C. Tretter have been. I was surprised when I saw that. I was shocked when I saw that.
Yeah, because going into this game, right, the guys that we know currently have COVID, and in Jack Conklin's case, an injury, a season-ending injury, that unit was essentially decimated compared to what fans are used to seeing out on the field on Sundays. So I think that is a concern. And obviously, when you look at a guy like Wyatt Teller, for example, we all know how important he is in every facet of the game, but especially in run blocking. And I believe that quote that you just showed did have in there that Blake Hance, while he has struggled this year, he is a good run blocker. Like that, he's better at run blocking than pass blocking. So he is beneficial to have out there in that regard, even though he's still learning and getting used to the NFL game, things like that. But obviously, Joel Bitonio you can't say enough about him. I think he has the highest offensive grade, according to Pro Football Focus, for the Browns, period, not just among offensive linemen. I believe it's like Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller. So obviously, you lose one of those guys, it really hurts. But Joel Bitonio still being out there, that's going to give any team a huge, huge boost, regardless of who else is out.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, time for us to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one on Baker Mayfield and what this viewer thinks is going on.
All right, let's get right to it. Baker Mayfield, he's undecisive. He holds the ball too long, which is why he takes so many sacks. He releases the ball late, which is why so many passes are contested by the defensive back. You have to throw the ball before the receiver goes into his break, because once the receiver comes out his break, the defensive back can recover. That's why it's so many hands on Baker's passes. He's just not what everybody wants him to be. He's just not.
All right. Again, I think he's trying to make a play downfield. There's not a lot of separation. There's a lot of things that go into that. I don't think it's just that he's holding the ball too long. At some point in time, you got to live to fight the next down. And I think he's kind of trying to extend that window a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And I think especially in that first Ravens game, it looked like guys were having issues gaining separation, especially Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's been so reliable in doing that this year and super good in single coverage situations and downfield situations. But you look at him, for example, in that first Ravens game last month, he was coming off that groin injury. And then he looked, I thought, much better against the Ravens last week once he had that bye week to rest and, kind of 2 more weeks essentially to come along from that. So I agree. I think separation has been an issue at times this year. And I do think, it's kind of a common, at this point, I think, criticism that Baker Mayfield maybe isn't, when you compare him to some other quarterbacks around the league, maybe not the fastest at going through some of those reads. But it definitely is tough. And again, when you don't know the intricacies of exactly what the calls are and things like that, which obviously, unless you're a coach or a player who knows what those play calls are, we're never fully going to understand all of that, right? But just on the surface level, I kind of get why that's a common complaint or criticism about watching him play. But again, kind of like you said, it's not all on one person ever in the game of football. There's 11 guys out there, and it's definitely more multifaceted than that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's just, he's not just holding on to the ball. It's, again, does he have to play better? Absolutely. Will he figure it out? We'll find out. Ashley Bastock and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will kind of turn our focus towards this Raiders game coming up Saturday, 7-6 Browns, 6-7 Raiders. Important one for the Browns. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine. Too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns and Raiders getting ready for a 4:30 kickoff on Saturday. And Case Keenum will be the starting quarterback for the Browns. Baker Mayfield on the COVID-19 reserve list currently. Raiders defensive coordinator Gus Bradley talked about preparing for Case Keenum versus Baker Mayfield.
We looked at both styles. Today is when we put a big emphasis on the quarterback, his intentions, his demeanor, how he handles himself under pressure. Does he escape? Does he extend? Those type things. So he's playing a lot of good football. I think the thing that stood out, I know there's a lot of things going on with Cleveland right now with COVID and things like that, but they had quite a few players out in the Denver game, missing both backs. Case started, and I thought they did a great job. They really stayed true to who they were. They had 80 yards rushing, 200 yards passing, a touchdown, close to 400 yards of total offense. So they're really who they are, and we got great respect for him. Excellent, really, really good running team, and he does things very well if he's at the helm. He's won a lot of games, like I said, been with the Vikings and done some really good things there, so a lot of respect for him.
So, Ashley Bastock, how do you think the Browns' offense changes if it is Case Keenum under center as opposed to Baker Mayfield?
Well, I do think it looks very similar to that Thursday night game against Denver, right? I mean, even down to Kareem Hunt, probably not being out there. It's very, very similar. I think, and, Mike Prefer yesterday, I think the quote that we got from him, the really great quote was, "Thank God for Case Keenum." And obviously he's very high paid, highly thought of veteran backup who's been in these situations before and has worked in a Kevin Stefanski offense well before he ever got to Cleveland and things like that. So I do think, given everything, given what this team does well, Case Keenum is very capable of being able to go out there and hand the ball off to Nick Chubb or Dearness Johnson and make those reads and make some critical plays when they need it and maybe stretch the field out more to open things up in the run game too. But kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, that's almost why for me in this game, losing Wyatt Teller is the biggest loss for this offense, just because, we're going to miss those pancake blocks if he's not out there, and the way he really opens up things on the ground for Nick Chubb, for Dearness Johnson, for Kareem Hunt. I think just that's part of the reason why this year, I think that we've seen Dearness Johnson, when he goes out there, be so effective. Because when you're running behind Wyatt Teller, Joel Bitonio, those guys, those kind of high caliber pulling guards, that makes your life as a running back a whole lot easier. So again, just to reiterate again, the biggest absence I think that they could have come Saturday is going to be Wyatt Teller.
Yeah, that's fair enough. The thing that struck me with the Broncos game, Keenum gets the ball out quick and on time, on target, which I don't think he has the arm strength. I don't think you'll be able to stretch the field as much as you'd really like to, but he's very decisive and he gets the ball out quickly, which backup quarterback, give me that all day.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair, right? And obviously we know Baker Mayfield has had his own issues this season with stretching the field, like I was saying before. But Case Keenum is a smart player who obviously he's not going to be the exact same guy that he was in Minnesota, that I think fans want to think of, that guy in Minnesota who won those playoff games. He's not that exact player today when he goes out there on Saturday, but he's going to be able to go out there and effectively run, I think, what they want him to run and make plays and hand the ball off when it counts.
So when you look at this game, what do you think some keys are? If the Browns are going to win, I think it's got to be relatively low scoring. When you look at this game, what do you think some keys are for the Browns?
Yeah, definitely. Another strong defensive performance, I think, would really go a long way. Obviously, we saw more guys the last few days get some of those COVID positives, like John Johnson, the third, especially back there at safety. There could be some issues. Ronnie Harrison today as well. So definitely, I think the defense, the Browns are really going to have to lean on the defense. And so many players talk about having the next man up mentality. And obviously, they're professional athletes. That's a common sentiment, I would think, but they really are going to have to prove that they have that this week, not just on the defense, not just on the offense, but on the entire team, on the sidelines. If Kevin Stefanski's not able to be out there, it really is going to have to be short memory. What's my job? have you been preparing up until this moment? And, it's almost like in my mind, like when you're in school and have a final, like you can't just cram for the final and expect to do well. You have to have been paying attention this whole time, essentially, right? So hopefully a lot of those guys have been doing that. They're pros. That's what they're supposed to be doing. But I really think it's going to come down to that and maybe some surprising performances. Like looking back at that Thursday night game, did anyone expect Ernest Johnson to run the amount that he did in that one? He went out and did it. So I think really just getting guys to step up like that. And like you're saying, the defense holding them to a low scoring contest and really grinding it out in this weather is going to be key.
Fair enough. Very good point. There is an opportunity for some folks to step up and have big games and play critical roles. Ashley Bastock, as always, thank you so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it, Ashley.
Thank you.
All right, Ashley Bastock. Make sure you read her pages of The Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, Browns beat reporter. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here again tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Scheduled guests, Browns beat reporter Scott Petrak and Browns beat reporter Mary Kay Cabot. That is tomorrow at 4 o'clock on Sports for CLE. We'll see you then.